What's up, guys? Welcome to another Shamshir Sound video. My name is Olly Nadem. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at a review of Olly James's masterclass that he did at an event called ADE, I believe. And this is one of your suggestions. Thank you so much for the suggestion. And if you guys have any other suggestions, feel free to drop a comment below. Olly James is a huge inspiration to me. He has tracks on tons of labels. He has a lot of experience. I love his sound. And this video, I managed to find some dude who uploaded different parts of this event because I think the actual masterclass is much longer, but they didn't do an official release. So I'm going to link below these video clips that I found, and I'm also going to link below Olly James's channel. Check it out. He has some amazing content, great music, great tutorials, just a great dude, and I would love to meet him one day. Before we jump into it, guys, I'm going to be launching some really exciting products in the future, and I'm also doing a one-on-one video chat with one of you guys. I'm going to be choosing one lucky winner, and all you got to do to enter the contest is check out the poll. I've created a survey with some really dope questions. I want to learn a bit more about your guys' struggles and your guys' issues with music production and how I can better deliver content for you guys, how I can create better videos, how I can create better tutorials. So please check that out. The link is in the video description. Once you fill out the survey, you'll be entered to win that one-on-one video call with me, and the winner will be announced June 1st. All the details and everything you need to know is on that survey, and again, the link is right in the video description. So let's jump right in.
I will base everything around the kick drum. In this track especially, you see with hardstyle and stuff, the kick is super important in the mix. It's like the most important thing to your ear. When you're in a club, you hear the kick, you hear the sub. So for me, I mix everything around the kick. So this is the most important thing. So then I'll solo just the drop leads. And as you can see, they were originally 79%. If you don't use FL Studio, everything starts at 79%. So what I do is this. Until in my ear, it sounds perfect.
So this is great. What he said about the volume recently, yeah, it's like 78%. And the reason why it's 78%, when I was a novice, I'm like, why is it 78%? Why shouldn't it just be 0 to 100? But it's just to allow you to increase or decrease accordingly. And what he's saying is right. You got to fine tune it to how you like. Many times I'll throw in a clap, and I know before I even listen to it, that's probably going to be too loud. Let me back it down. -12, -6, sounds good. You know, everything is situational, and what he said about the kick is so important. If the kick is not hitting hard, like the track for EDM, dance music revolves around the kick.
And then I'll do everything step by step. Next will be the hardstyle fills. And basically that's how I do it, just everything step by step around the kick drum, because if your kick drum does not punch through your mix, you do not have a good EDM track. It needs to slam through, and it needs to be the focal point. If your sub bass isn't right, your track won't slam in a festival or a club. So if I'm going to try and find the other project. If you have any questions for me, guys, you can ask them now, because this could take a long fucking time.
So basically, you produce a track and you already have the volume set up, then you bounce it to stems and you reconsider the volumes.
Yeah, because when I'm producing an idea, it's never perfect. I produce it kind of on the fly, and I used to finish a track in one day, release it on SoundCloud the next day, but now I will always leave at least a few days, because a few days later you could come back and listen and think this is absolute shit, you know, because you know, things change. You've got fresh ears, you haven't been hearing the same thing for hours on end, and imagine I didn't bounce this to stems, the mix of the track would be not as good. The way the track is mixed is because I did this, and as you can see, I don't have this problem now. I can make a full track in this laptop and it won't worry.
So what he said is true. Some people don't like to render stems. You don't have to. This is really up to you. But I kind of resonate with this partly in the sense that when you do bounce stems, you can see sometimes random errors that might have occurred, stuff that you maybe overlooked that, you know, just slipped through. Also, you do get a level of control, and in regards to that, I know producers who just like to master right in the box and they don't like to bounce stems. For instance, Dyro mentions that. And there's really, it's up to you. If you do want to bounce the stems, bounce the stems. If you don't, it's really up to you. But I can definitely see the benefit because then you can really optimize and fine tune. And regarding the fresh set of ears, I've had that problem a lot. Like, how many times have we listened to a track? Oh, it sounds so great. And you come back to it and it's just like straight Watto's junkyard. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So ear fatigue is real. Listening to your sounds over and over will really just make you too much obsessed over your own sound. So it's really good to listen to other tracks as well. Not that you shouldn't enjoy and love your songs, but listening to that introduces a polarity so you can get an idea. Oh wow, the kick is terrible in comparison to this artist that I look up to.
It's fine, but as you can see, I built everything, like the build-ups, added all the break stems together. So yeah, if you have a laptop, like, how is your laptop? Is it good? Is it powerful? Do you have CPU problems?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
In general, I can work with it, but yeah, everyone has CPU problems.
Yeah. I mean, if you're making like hardstyle progressive house and you've got like 55 silent layers, then I really recommend you bounce at the stems, because you can then go and add 10 more layers. Yeah. You know, you can keep doing that, and it can allow you to mix a lot better.
This is a big one for me. I used to be so scared to bounce stems. It's kind of like the point of no return. It's like some Indiana Jones. You got to take that leap of faith. You know what I mean? What was that? The Holy Grail. And so with that being said, a lot of times we want to cling on to MIDI. And what do I mean by MIDI? Like our massive silent one, Serum. We don't want to bounce it because we're like, if I bounce it, I can't go back to tweak those things. However, it's a one-way road. It will force you to push through with your work, and it will introduce maybe even new inspiration because you might take that sample and manipulate it for something you never even expected.
So really, I have no clue where these are, so I'm going to open the Hardstyle kick project, because, you know, if you know my sound, you'll know I've never made hardstyle ever before, really. So making the kick was hard for me. It's like if you guys want to go make a pop record, you'd have to go and listen to pop music and analyze what kicks do they use, what claps do they use, what snares do they use. So this is what I did. You can see in the top left corner, Eiffel 65 Blue. It's a remix, a hardstyle remix. I play in pretty much all my sets.
What he said is really true. When you guys need to make a type of genre that you love, like if you guys want to make Big Room and you're not that good at it, maybe you made mostly like hip hop or something, always remember what you learn from the other genres is skills that will help you to the other ones. For instance, Kashmir, you know, he produced that track like a G6, making pop music, and then he slowly went into dance music, but he didn't like dance music initially. So I really resonate with this because in my earlier days, like I would listen to Fast Foot, the hard Russian electro, and I would literally listen like, what is he doing for this fill? What is that weird sound? I would do vocal chops the same way as him. I would do, like, we basically, us as humans, we interpret things and we build off of each other's ideas. So definitely that is a big thing. So don't be afraid to listen to a reference track, listen to your favorite tracks, even sample a track. Sampling is completely fine, because if you feel bad about sampling something from a guy's track, he probably also sampled something from another person's track. And I think it's about the art and the mindset in the entirety.
And there's a hardstyle kick in that. So what I did was dragged it into this project and just played it over and over again and tried to emulate it, but with sounds that I have. I do not know how they made the hardstyle bass kick. Yeah, obviously they probably use Serum, Massive, something like that. So what I did was I replicated that by using samples. So I can show you the layers right now when it finally opens.
You know, with loopers and Olly James, I see a lot of them using WoW Filter, so I think I'm gonna start using WoW Filter. I'll take a look at the new version. It looks like you can really add a lot of good throaty vowel drive to your synth, so sometimes newer isn't necessarily better, guys, and that's why, like, a lot of times we're always looking for the new best VSTs, but like sometimes if it, you know that good old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay, so this is how I made the hardstyle kick, all of these layers. The first one is the punchy kick. As you can hear, it's got a nice body as well as the click to the top. Next one is actually where I got the low end. When I did, because I do YouTube tutorials for beginners on my YouTube channel. And I actually, when I was doing this, like I went over this in a video, and I realized like I actually used the sub bass from this. This kick, I would never do that normally. I would always add my own sub, but this one seems to have a lot of sub to it. And all I did was sidechain it, used a Bandreject on it. As you can hear, it's got a kind of vocal sound to it. I realized Jags used to do this in all their tracks.
So that Bandreject is almost like I believe, I haven't used Bandreject in a while, but almost like cuts in the middle of it, kind of emphasizing the lows and low mid and emphasizing a bit of the high. And what he is saying about the throat, yeah, it really adds this kind of like grunge and vowel-y type of thickness to it.
On their drop leads, it sounds like a vocal lead, which is super cool. And obviously, if you make an EDM, you have to have this plugin. If you don't, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
He's talking about Camelcrusher. Camelcrusher is great, and you don't have to use it on everything, but I always found that like if you put Camelcrusher on a lead, like 8 or 9 out of 10 times it will be to your benefit. You can use it slightly, you can give it a little bit of compression, you can give it a little bit of tube excitation. It can drive your sound really well.
This is where you get the real power. Without it, you can hear how soft it will be. It just really pushes it forward. And obviously a tight sidechain, but not fully sidechain, because I still wanted that that little click to it to sit on top of my punch kick.
This is a super important tip. Guys, you don't always have to use sidechain aggressively. Part of the reason why sometimes some people's leads don't pop out is that they're doing like a complete full sidechain, killing also the transient of that lead. So that lead can't actually punch through the mix. And I've done this many times. I think I got inspired by Olly James to do it, where like I want to sidechain my vocal in like maybe like a breakdown of a house track, but like no sidechain, it doesn't work because the vocal is like stacking on top of the kick. Too much sidechain almost takes away from some of the words being said, and the sweet spot can be find a curve you like and then work into the sidechain, maybe like 60%, maybe 50%, maybe like a weird value like 90%. So sometimes that will work. Don't just look at it visually and think that you need to make space for everything for the kick. A lot of times like the secret sauce with the sidechain is me using it like a bit less in between. But that's usually like situational. I'm not saying that you would do that for like everything. Generally, when you're working with my leads, it's like 100% sidechain, 100% sidechain, 100% sidechain in terms of the dry wet. But like sometimes you have those weird stuff like a vocal stem or something that you use like a bit less sidechain in terms of the dry wet amounts.
Nice bounce to it. This is where the rhythm of the track comes from. And obviously I dragged the drop leads in here so I could have a reference. You can hear how loud the drop leads are there. That's why in the final project they're a lot quieter. This is an attack layer, I think. Like a donk sound. These are all little layers that you will not really hear in the mix, but they really do make the sound. Again, kind of weird sounds. Meld and bounce. And this is something I love to do. Like I love sounds which have like a texture to it. Like you can hear this is quite a horrible sound to hear, but it has a texture to it and it sounds nice as a layer. Next is something that sits on top of the kick.
So I was gonna say that these subtle things that he's talking about are very important. For instance, the track I'm working on right now is a big room track, and really like mostly you hear like the big room kick, the lead, but a lot of the effects and a lot of small nuances add to give a unified sound. And those textures, those little like one shots, they're all important. They all play a vital role in contributing to the overall goal of the track.
And extra top kick to get even more click. This is 6 layers from Serum from another idea of a track I had, and I bounced it. This is why it's called Maybe, because I didn't know if it would work or not. Next one is another hardstyle sound. And as you can hear, all these sounds have the same characteristics. They all have that gritty sound. And that's important when you are layering sounds. If you have a drop lead, which is a saw lead, do not have like a bleepy sound underneath it, because it's not going to sound like one complete lead. You need to find leads which all have the same characteristics and sound similar to make one complete sound. So this is what I did here. I've never made a hardstyle kick before.
That is something kind of eye-opening a bit to me, like in the sense that like a lot of times we layer sounds, but it doesn't sometimes occur to us that sometimes the layer we're introducing could be detrimental. You know what I mean? It's almost like, think of it this way, like with food, right? Let's say you're preparing a lasagna. You're not going to start putting icing and sugar and all this stuff. It needs to be, think about food. I think food will be a good way of painting this analogy to you guys. When you guys are baking something, you use a specific stuff naturally, instinctually, like you wouldn't go and, you know, get a burger and then start putting like donut on top, put this on top. But then it almost becomes a barrage, a collage of nonsense, of just junk, of crap. So good for him for mentioning this, because in the next few videos I'm going to talk about layering, and that's a really good mindset.
But I listened to a hardstyle producer's kick and I emulated it and ended up getting, this was the original kick. But yeah, you understand that. If you want to emulate something you've never produced before, you want to try progressive house or something, listen to other producers' stuff and really analyze it, because then you can get something close to what they have. So I think that's enough for the kick project. If you have more questions, because I'm gonna have to look for this main project right now. Yeah.
Was it tough to like space the kick like with EQ when you're layering? Like, what was that process like?
In the kick project.
Yeah.
So that's the main sub bass. I don't think I did anything to it because it's from a hardstyle pack. But so it carried enough low end. I think maybe I boosted a tiny bit in the sub area. But when you're adding layers on top, all those extra layers I added do not carry any low end whatsoever. Because if you've got any, you know, this is basic stuff, it's going to sound horrible, it's going to sound not clean. But as you can hear the kick, it's very clean. It's got the sub here, and I imagine it visually. You've got the sub and then everything just sits on top. There's nothing going into this area right now. So it's the same with leads. You would cut all the lows from your leads.
This is true. It's just kind of standard stuff. I talk about this too. I also talked about this in reverb too. You know, you always want to make sure that like that sub is almost like an untouched area. You don't want like a top kick with a lot of sub bass adding to your kick that has a good body. Let that kick with the good body exist. Maybe boost it, get it to the value you like, but the top kick I would cut like 120 hertz, 150 hertz. I don't want really strong subsonic bass frequencies adding it, unless for some reason, for some specific reason. Same thing with leads. Leads I'm cutting with a 24 dB cut in terms of the slope, and usually around 120 or 150 hertz.
Because the sub carries the sub, your leads carry the mids and the highs and stuff. So when you're doing it, I would just keep it the kick and the sub. When they are perfect, I'll add stuff on top, but always check that there's no low end in it, and you won't get any problems. But it's all just ear. You have to do it by ear.
And Renan, like it feels like you go more into trance and like hardstyle. So what's your vision when you're doing so many different genres and styles?
Well,
I'm impressed, like the variety of the sound you want to create and you release.
Like I released a track called Close to Me, which is like Psytrance, EDM, like lots of different genres, trap even. I just made it my mission to have as many different styles in this one track. I just like doing that because it's hard to be creative nowadays. I mean, all of us in this whole building are making the same style of music. Like, there's so many people making the same style. So why not look for other genres to make your own sound? Like everyone wants their own sound, right? Like when Mike Williams made the Future Bounce sound, like everyone wants to have that. With Oliver Heldens with Gecko, I know he didn't make the sound, but he was the one who had success with it. All of us want that, to create a sound. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking at bass house, I'm looking at Psytrance, I'm trying to combine the Olly James sound with something else to make something new and fresh, because if I made Ecuador for the next 4 years, people are going to get sick. Even the die-hard fans who hate me for trying something new, they're still going to get bored of it. So
I think this is a really good point. Our sound is established through what Kashmir said, is like when you finish a project, you've done like 10,000 tweaks and knobs adjusted, sliders adjusted. All those decisions lead to your manifestation of your sound. But I think taking it to another level is like maybe not focusing too much on one specific type of sound. And for me, I love Big Room, but I grew up loving the hard electro and electro house. I even made some like trance remixes. Kanye West, Love Lockdown. It was like a trance remix, 140 BPM. I think you can do any genre you want as long as your style is strong and representative of you. And if it's interesting and if you have a story to tell, that's what is the most important.
Look at other things. Like I think the bass line's important nowadays. You can't really get away as much with using a big room kick. I think that's too overdone. So why not look for hardstyle basses, hardstyle kicks, Psytrance bass lines? Look for other things that inspire you. What do you listen to at home? Check that and think, oh, I like the clap in this. I like reggaeton snares. You know what I mean? That's how you keep evolving your sound, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. This, for me, I mean, I love big room kicks. I'll even, I agree with him partly. Like, I will still listen to a track that could even be on the same note kick and enjoy it. But it's good also to have some variation. That's why I'm challenging myself to pitch my kicks downward and upwards, keep that same punch, introduce a little bit of variation. And that's why we do the A-B type of drop. So it's good to force yourself to come out of your comfort zone, to evolve your production. And you could still make the same type of genre, but just attacking with different stuff and thinking out of the box, trying some a bit harder stuff.
So don't be afraid to try adding weird shit, because the weird shit is always the best music. So, anyone else?
If you receive demos,
Yeah.
you receive a lot of them, I think.
Yeah.
What's the main thing that goes wrong? Can be creative, can be technical, but what's the main
With
thing?
demos?
The main thing you see created that you think, don't do it.
The thing with demos, right? Like, every single demo I hear is the same. Like, I did a competition, right? Because I get so many demos over the years, so I thought, let's do a competition, right? So I can collab with one person. Because I know for a fact there's people out there who I could make a sick track with, right? So what I did is I made this competition, and I got 500 demos. And I was checking them at a cottage in Friesland. If you're from Holland, you'll know it's like a cottage in the middle of nowhere. And I was with my manager just checking all these demos. And every one sounded like me from 2 years ago. I was thinking, like, I know most of the guys who did that are brand new to the scene, like probably a year in. But if you're going to impress someone, you have to do something they've not done. Like, when I used to remix Hardwell's tracks, I would never remix a Big Room Hardwell song. I would always do a bootleg of one of his progressive songs, but with a big fucking heavy drop. Because I knew if he was going to play that at a festival, he would love to have a hard drop to it. So when I hear demos nowadays, it's always... And I know it is hard, you've got to be ahead of the curve, like you've got to think.
I think this is a key thing. Like, let's say you want to remix a deadmau5 track. This is, I think, a really good point Ollie made, is that you don't want to remix, like, deadmau5, not exactly. He's like a progressive house king, You don't want to remix his progressive house track into your progressive house track. By all means, if you want to do it, do it. But his point is that it's really going to intrigue him if you take his progressive house track, deadmau5, for instance, and you turn it into like some weird Melbourne bounce track. you know, or like an electro house track, that polarity, that contrast can be very refreshing rather than hearing like, you know, and for me, and it's all situational. Like if a guy remixed my electro house track into another sick electro house track, I would probably enjoy it, but I would probably be more surprised and it would catch me off guard, like how he's mentioning. If someone took like Electro Saiyans 2 and they turned it into a big room track, I'd be like, whoa, that's fucking epic. That's crazy.
Like some of the tracks that have already been signed coming out next year have been produced like years ago, but the guys at the top are already super ahead of the curve. So when I heard some demos the other day, I did a meet and greet at the house in Amsterdam, and one guy played me like house inspired stuff, like Joyride kind of style. I was like, shit, this is so good to hear something different. So when I hear demos, if you put a Psytrance bass line, I'm already interested, because it's not a big room kick with da, 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 that kind of drop lead, you know. Cool drop leads, different drop leads, and bass lines. Where it's something that's not fucking EDM from 2014, 2015, basically. What kind of music do you make?
Guilty, I think.
What I did, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, how many years have you been producing though?
Depends. Now, I've done a lot of like rock music.
Whoa.
Yeah.
There you go. Like you've already got outside.
Yeah, but
inspiration.
that was more like mixing, because when you
Oh,
work
okay.
with a band, you track the records and you put them together. That caught me because they were always sending me shitty guitars, so I thought I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Got into plugins, got into EDM, and that's.
I mean, so you've got a good mix down, right? So you're already.
I hope. No,
Yeah,
I'm
you're already
still
in a
learning
good
on
place,
the-
right? The mix down is something everyone always says, oh, how do you get a good mix down? And I tell everyone the same thing. You just have to wait until your ears are trained enough. I can sit and teach you mix your kick with the lead, but unless you have done it so many times, it's like ingrained in your brain.
This is true. Like I could show you guys exactly the steps to do to get like a sound, but it's a process. You when you listen to more music, you mature your ears more and more. You get a better taste. It kind of is like some fine wine, and so it comes with time by exposing yourself to more music and exposing yourself to the stuff, and you get more experience with it. It's kind of like an RPG IRL.
You're not going to pick it up. It just happens with time. Like my tracks 3 years ago sounded like shit. I hope they don't sound as shit now, but you know, it's something that comes with time. And I think if you're gonna, you don't need to worry about having your own sound right now. I think you probably want to build a fan base, right?
Yeah.
That should be it.
Getting
Build a
music
fan base.
out there is hard enough. So.
Yeah, get your music released every week, whether it's a SoundCloud release, whatever. Get a fan base. And then when you're releasing on the top labels, then start to think about being super creative and something new. But it doesn't help to go and try different things now, because it's going to help you stand out amongst the other guys in the same position as you. Like these guys, like it revealed, for example, here hundreds, probably thousands of demos. Like something that's a little bit different is already going to make them think, oh shit, I need to listen to this a bit more. So and I know I keep shoving this down your throat, but bass lines, Psytrance bass lines, reverse kick, whatever, just try something new.
This is really gonna inspire me. I'm gonna just make something that's just like completely unorthodox. Maybe not all, like I'll still keep it same BPM, but I want to do something that's just, it's got to get that attention, you know what I mean? And he's hitting that point real hard. We got to put out that music. We got to put something that was just so eye-catching that people are like, what the fuck is that sound? Or like, what is that? How did that guy do it?
I beg it, because I think we can all make EDM sick again, but we really need to all be more creative. We can't just use the same sub kicks again. Yeah?
Do you think the like the overuse of the generic big room kind of like hurt the like authenticity of like big room hardstyle producers?
But I think that's the same with all genres. Like, you remember Future Bounce, right?
Yeah.
Future Bounce was super cool. Yeah, even I was like, I want to be a Future Bounce producer. But then you do it so much that it just becomes dead. But the only guys still doing it are the guys who kind of founded it, Lucas and Steve, Mike Williams. But you listen to Mike Williams and Lucas and Steve now, it's not what they were producing
Yeah.
when it
It
became big,
evolved.
right? They've took it to the next level because they were in there first, kind of thing. If you miss the boat, then you're always going to be behind because you're going to hear, you might hear, for example, my track on Revealed and think, oh fuck, this is what's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, this is true. Like, the overuse of something doesn't mean something's dead, but we need to be more creative. We need to think outside the box. We need to evolve our sounds rather than just being stagnating on like just maybe like a style that has been repetitive. And I think that you can make a style whatever you want, but really I think to take it to the next level, he has a really good point here.
I produced that song and signed it 6 months ago. I'm already working on the next thing. Do you know what I mean? So, of course, but Big Room's always going to come back. Future Bounce is always going to come back as something new. That's how music works. Nothing can stay like insane forever. But I think you can, if you're making something creative, then it's not going to hurt you. You know, just really try to stand out. I know it sounds easy for me to tell you to try and stand out, but it's really simple. Just listen to what's being produced and try something different. Even if it's a little thing, it's going to help you in the long run. Style Screech, it's not overpowering it. A revealed fill. This is the plug for their sample packs. I love using like fills like this. But as you can see down here, the Maddox snare. Now he didn't. This is the snare from our track Invictus, but he didn't send me it. I just took it from the track. So if
This is amazing, and I've been doing this more and more. Is like, don't feel bad to do the most stupid thing of like taking something out of a song. Sometimes, and I remember I was talking to a guy. I'm like, I sampled this from Martin Garrix. He's like, well, Martin Garrix sampled the kick from Sander Van Doorn, and maybe Sander Van Doorn sampled his kick from someone else. It's like we get inspirations from one another.
If you guys want a sick snare, go and listen, go and download, make sure you buy it. Go and buy Invictus, right? And just before the drop, it has this snare. And I asked him, I don't know, it's a bit weird right now. But I asked him how he did it because it sounds like there's a kick, a snare, a sub bass, and all this shit. And he didn't tell me how he did it, but yeah, I basically cut it from the song and added it in my new one without.
When you hear sounds like that, like 3, 2, 1, that big snare slash thing, from what Olly James is using, usually it's something like a Prida snare, a snare with a big reverb, and then it's cut off, simultaneously being like a bit of a tape stop, a bit of a pitch bend, a little bit of a sub bass to give it a tiny bit of body, but not too much that it takes away from that drop kick that's gonna follow it. So but again, I don't know for certain, but that's what I think. That's what I think.
No. There is. So this is the main thing you'll probably hear. I have this. I love dubstep wobbles and stuff, so this is throughout the track. See if I can show you Now I can probably make 10 fills out of that one loop, and in my next tracks you'll probably hear it. So take loops, full drop loops, because sample packs have construction kits, right? So they have the kick, the drop leads, the claps, everything. Take the drop leads and cut them in different positions.
That's the second time. So Loopers talks about cutting up the loops. You see Olly James talk about cutting up the loops. And on that same note about dubstep loops, I'm not a big fan of dubstep. I was a huge fan of dubstep back in like the bro step days when Skrillex was rising. Remember Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites? I had a huge Skrillex poster. I was obsessed. But these days I am more into that house, electro house, big room, G house, future house, those styles, even Melbourne bounce. In regards to dubstep, a lot of the dubstep sound designers make some crazy cool sounding wobs and synths and snares that could be beneficial for your electro house production. So sometimes you'll find a great sample for something that it wasn't intended. Like you might go into a hip hop sample and find something that's great for your main stage big room track.
And filter them up, and you've got yourself a decent fill already. So altogether, it's just this. The main things you hear is the R. I like to have something like that. It's a little bit cool. Obviously, a reverb, a reverse synth from Dirty Audio or something from Splice. And yeah, this is the main thing. This and the ARP is basically it. So use samples, cut them up. That's the easiest thing. Because I like working fast. I don't like spending 9 hours in the studio making a fill. That's just not me. I like getting sounds, putting them together. Like, I work very visually, kind of thing. I like to make music. I don't like to sit and spend the full day making one sound. So this works really well for me. Is there any other questions?
Are you putting Camelcrusher on baseline as well?
No, on the baseline, even if I make my own sub from, if I use a sub preset from Silent, I will just boost with EQ. I think if you're going to use the Camelcrusher on it, it's just going to push it too much. Do you know what I mean? It's all it needs to do sometimes is boost the sub, because I never hear a sub from Silent which is powerful enough, which is low enough, because we make like super heavy bass music, so I like to boost it and just sidechain. That's simply it. But when you can use a sub from a sample pack, a sub kick, and it'll already have an flow end. So
Yeah, so that just comes back to, like, you don't have to use that tool for everything. You don't have to use like Camelcrusher on everything. It's always situational.
I will get open the trance project, the trance breaks. This is the thing I wish I did. I wish I just called them normal names, but it's probably called like Psytrance EDM bass kick 3.0 or something.
This is true. I used to, back in the day, give my projects terrible names like Pinocchio Big Room. What's Pinocchio Big Room? At least give it some sort of good name. Like, he still called it Psytrance, this, that. The track that I'm working on right now, the Big Room track, the folder is called like Martin Garrix's Idea. So don't give it a completely weird name. Like, if it's an electro house track, don't call it Donut. Like, give it something accordingly so you can be familiar with it when you come back to it weeks later or days later, so you don't forget. But as soon as you can, definitely give it some sort of naming. Keep the organization, keep things in subfolders so you can stay organized. Organization is so important.
Try searching for Psy. Yeah, this is. I really don't know if I'm gonna find it, to be honest. I mean, if we can take a break for an hour, then we'll come back and do it. Maybe I can show you Warria, my track Warria, which uses side bass as well.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. Let's hope it's the one. Because I basically made my Psytrance bass from Kontakt.
Yeah.
Do you use Kontakt?
I do.
Yeah. Futuristic Polar Bears sent me this pack called Somnia Standard Psytrance bass samples. Yeah, write it down. It's a good one. I can show you it now. It's loading, I think, so. This is, I basically made this for my YouTube. I was going to do how I made the Psytrance bass in Warria. And this is literally it. The most basic thing ever. I remade this for this, so this is not the one I used in the track. But it sounds the same, right?
Yeah.
In the track it sounds a little bit better, because in this track I actually added a layer on top. In Throne, it's just the bass. But this one, you'll hear like a Spire layer on top of it. But as you can hear, it's got the bounce. It sounds like a Psytrance bass, but a lot slower. So obviously you have your kick, you punch your kick, and once it slaps through the mix.
This is a really important note, because a friend of mine was like, yo, the Tiesto Big Room remix he just released, it sounds slower. He thought it was like 124 BPM, but it was actually 128. I was listening to it. I was like tapping the BPM and FL. It was like 128, 127. And a lot of times the BPM might sound faster or slower based off of the groove and the notes that you're playing. You can almost manipulate it such that you're playing quickly, but it sounds like it's slower. You know what I mean? Like it's like a 128 track, but because it's so bassy and clubby and all about the kick and like funky, it sounds slower. So there's some cool techniques that you can use to really it's all about the style ultimately, how your flavor is, and that can make something seem like it's different from the original BPM. It might sound faster, might sound slower. His track Warrior does sound like fast, but it was, to my surprise, I think it's a bit slower. I think it's 126 or something.
Really punchy. And instead of having a sub bass doing this same pattern, because these notes are very short, your sub just wouldn't be there. You wouldn't hear the sub whatsoever. It'd be like, so what I do is, I have an offbeat sub. Dum, 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 dum. So sounds like Melbourne Bounce now.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like Psytrance, and especially if you made this a lot faster. Like I love making and playing 150 Psytrance. You can hear it's kind of bouncing, but what I did here is it's a sample from, I honestly don't know where this is from. I collabed with some guys years and years ago, like 4 or 5 years, when Melbourne Bounce was like super cool. And this sub sample was there. And actually this sub sample has way too much low end. Like, it was from the old days, so when it was all about the sub and who cared about like how distorted your track was, the distorted the better. So what I did was dipped a little bit of the low end from it, which actually made room for the Psytrance bass. And here you can see in Kontakt, here it is. All you do is drag it in. You can only do certain amount of keys with it though, I think. Oh, and you'll be able to hear actually the reason I've got kind of...
I actually haven't done that. I might try using Kontakt more for maybe situational like samples, and I'll do a video on that. Using maybe like Kontakt for maybe a vocal chop, drag the vocal in, or maybe like how he's doing here. It's definitely gonna have more advantages than using just the sampler in FL Studio. Gonna have a lot more effect control and all that extra stuff that comes with Kontakt.
A white noise on top, as I use the standard FL Studio hat, which comes here when you load the project. I'm not sure what I did to it. Boost a little bit highs, cut the lows so it wouldn't clash. And it just gives a nice attack. Bit like a white noise, right? So that's basically how I did it in Throne. In Throne, I used a Psytrance kick, so it's not as clean as this. In Throne, it's quite a distorted kick because I was like, I want to make a Psytrance drop. So I was like, Psytrance kicks, everything, I was just dragging them in. So that's why this track, which I made afterwards, is a lot more clean, because I thought, why not use a clean kick? Why does it have to be super like powerful? This is just, I wanted something that would punch through. But yes, Psytrance basses is super simple if you've got this plugin. But if you've got the new Kashmir pack as well, he has so many, and all they are is one shots, so you would just drag the one shot in and it would give you the same thing. And this is the MIDI, by the way, if you ever wanted to know what the MIDI's like. It seems simple, but it's this note. It's dipped a little bit in volume, so it's like so make sure you do that if you're going to try it.
This is really a cool thing is you don't always have to depend on sidechain. You can also depend on using velocities. So what he's using here is he probably did like a lower velocity for the first note and then going up and maybe going to normal. So creating almost like a hill. And I've done that with closed hats because that will allow you to, if you use that, or maybe even combine that with a sidechain, gives a little bit of groove, gives a little bit of a hill to your bass or your hats, whatever you're doing. And regarding the hats, using the hat for using the hat to add to a click, absolutely. You can put a kick, you could put a hat like, I don't know, on top of a kick. You could use a closed hat as a top kick. You could use a clap as a top kick. There's no rules, so really just do what sounds good to you.
So yeah, is there any more questions?
Where do you find the inspiration for your melodies?
Breakdown melodies or drop melodies.
Just anything really.
Breakdown melodies, I don't really make them anymore.
Yeah.
In my tracks, it's mostly Like in this one, it's not a complex melody, right? Basic shit, right? But what I did for Lion, actually, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I made.
I like that he says that. It's just basic shit, you know? Like, that's the thing, though. Just don't complicate it too much. Make it simple, you know? Because sometimes we don't want to spend 500 hours. You got to look at risk reward. You got to look at, like, the ROI, return on investment. Are you going to spend 5,000 hours on a track so that, like, 10 people listen to it or 50 people listen to it? There was this one guy who was, like, telling me, he was a very arrogant dude. He was like, I DJ'd professionally for 5 years, and he's giving me all this, like, pretty, like, he's giving feedback, but in a very terrible manner, like, no politeness, no manners, like, just straight up scrub. Dude has, like, 20 followers, and he's telling me what to do, and it's just like, it's okay to tell me what to do and give me critical feedback, but if you don't have any experience of your own or have achieved something, then it's like you also don't really have the authority. Olly James has so much authority because he's put out tons of music. He has established himself. He's gotten on labels. He's played shows. He's put in the work. He said that he released like 100 tracks before he got one on Revealed. So don't fall into those haters. Don't let them manipulate you to make you think that you gotta spend like 10 years on a track before you put it out. Just put it out and learn from your mistakes. Remember the word fail, first attempt in learning.
This, because I think the breakdown in Lion is probably the best I've ever made. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I went on the piano and I made this all myself. What I did was I downloaded a trance MIDI pack, and I was dragging some in, and I didn't find any, because this is a totally new melody to me. Like, it's an arp, so dun 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 dun. So what I did was I found like this rhythm, which was a dun 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 dun, but it didn't have this emotion. So what I did is I just sat and played different kind of chords with it. But I really love dragging a MIDI in, hearing something that I like, and I can go. Because if you sit in front of your piano roll and make a melody, unless you're Martin Garrix, it's going to be pretty tough, and it's going to take you hours, right? So, like, it's not cheating, it's legal to do. I could take a MIDI and use it. That's what they're there for. But I like to change them in my own way.
That's a good point. I think we should definitely all, including myself, throw in a MIDI and try and get inspirations. And I've included MIDIs for you guys also in my sample pack. I've included a bunch of MIDIs, bunch of presets. Tweak them how you like. You know, it's all about building inspiration, like you said.
I had piano lessons for like 6 weeks or something, so I've had 6 piano lessons, so I understand chords. After 5 years of making music, I understand chords finally, a little bit. So now it's good I can make my own stuff. But I basically copied this break from a Porter Robinson track, like Ghost Voices or something. And I used that as my inspiration for this break. But yeah, now I think what's working in the clubs especially is these breakdowns which don't have these big synths. Yeah. If you're going to play a big synth, it's more for the festival, right? In club music now with the house stuff and that, it's just a move and break, so kind of keep the drums going, so it's kind of a long build-up.
Yeah, this is true. I think he hits it hard with this. Is like in the clubs it might have like the big drop, bassy drop, and then it's kind of like more mellow, it's kind of chill, you don't know what's going on, it's more subtle. I think that could still slam in a club, but yeah, it's probably more suitable for the festival. It will still be amazing in the club, but he has a point there.
But if you are going to do that, if you're stuck, I would listen to a catchy melody like Tremor, right? And take the notes, dun 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 dun. Then make a melody with that same pattern. If you find a melody that sounds good, just take the dun 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 and then make your notes with that. That's something I think helps as well. But like Tremor is one that you would think, it's kind of one everyone would say, oh, this is a Tremor copy, but you know what I mean? Take like Hardwell's dun 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 dun. His melodies are always like that, super catchy. So try that, I would say.
It's true. I do this a lot where I listen to something and I see if I can move those notes, maybe make some variations of it. And it's a good way of you guys getting inspired if you're lacking inspiration or you want something to start with to build off of. I do that a lot, many times in the piano roll.
There's someone at the back, right? Yeah.
Is the lead from Losing Myself also one layer, or is it like multiple?
Losing Myself was one main sound, and then what I had was like EDM saws underneath it. Like, I wish I could show you all these projects now, but really, this is like a minefield. I would not be. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, right? But I will be if you ever want to know things, because when I'm at home and I'm trying to do YouTube videos, I always think, what would people want to see next? So just tweet me or something and say, from today, I want to see the Losing Myself project, and I'll show you like a half-an-hour video of it. Every Wednesday I'll do it, so let me know, because I should have been more prepared, but I didn't know what we were doing today, so... but yeah, that was, again, one main sound, and then some kind of, you know, the big room saw, like, dun dun, that behind it, just to give it kind of more of a high-end boost, and just make it sound a little bit thicker. But it was a serum layer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, for the alarm, remember?
What?
The alarm song.
Yeah.
So like I think the lead is really strong.
It's what?
It's a collab, right?
Yeah, Respawn made that lead. There's like
Okay.
3 different leads in that one, but one of them was from Kashmir's Serum Bank. I think it was Kashmir Volume 1. He made a Serum Bank with that, and it's called Bounce or something. And I don't know if it's the same lead, EQ differently.
Let me know if you guys want to see more Serum tutorials. I mean, I've mastered Massive, and I don't want to say I've mastered it, but I'm really good at Massive. I love Massive, but I'm thinking also returning to Serum. I have used Serum for many times. There's many tracks of mine that have had Serum in it. And let me know if you guys use Serum. What synth do you guys love the most? Let me know.
But those leads were sick, right? He's a really good producer. Like EDM, he's one of the best with leads and stuff, him and Maddox. And I just worked on the breakdown a bit, added some stuff, but really the main idea for Alarm was him. So you'll have to ask him that. But it was just Serum, I think. Serum inspiring stuff. Okay. There's nothing too crazy.
So that's a wrap for this masterclass review, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to smash that like button. Remember to smash that subscribe button, because we got some more juicy tutorials coming and a giveaway at 500 subscribers. Make sure you check out that survey. The link is in the video description below. The winner will be able to do a one-on-one video call with me on Skype or Discord or something. So check that out. I really want to tackle your guys' problems and learn and see what is the most important things in your music production journey. So please check that out in the video description. And with that being said, guys, please make sure you check out Olly James's channel. Thank you to him for his content and making this masterclass. And you can check out the original uploader of these parts of the Olly James video that he recorded. So thank you to those guys as well, and thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys very soon. Take care.